This video will be more QGIS adjacent than it will be the main topic. Recently I've been working a lot with point clouds, and one issue I've bumped into is that the persons that I want to show the point clouds, or that I want to be able to use the point clouds, they do not have point cloud software installed. And they may not even be able to install point cloud software. So one way to do this is to make it available through the cloud, but I want to be able to deploy it offline completely. And the easiest way I've found so far is to use Potree. Potree is extremely capable to handle large point clouds, but it can also be used to create small deployable installations without requiring too much from the host system. So if you have a web server on the host server, that's it. You don't need any more. And if you don't and have access to Python, you can start a web server on a local machine. And you can run the point cloud viewer from USB memory. This can all be done by the resources that are available on the internet, but I tried to create a script that would make it even easier. And that is the topic for this video. I will use QGIS to generate the point clouds that will be used later on, and I will try to do as much as possible on a Windows machine. However, this is a virtual machine, so all the things I wanted to do cannot be done for different reasons. The script that is on my GitHub, and there will be a link in the description. The repository is called Potree deploy, and it's essentially a script that creates the required environment to build the Potree installation, and it copies part of that to a deployment package that could be copied. And it also includes a few HTML files that will make it simple for you to deploy standard point clouds. The first command that should be run is to collect the build script, and this should be done in a Linux terminal. And I will use Linux for this, because when I tried to run it in the Windows subsystem for Linux, that does not work. And that is because I'm only running Windows in a virtual machine, and the Windows subsystem for Linux will not start in a virtual machine. It needs access to virtualization that is in the on the motherboard, and I can't replicate that in this virtual machine. So instead of using these commands in the WSL on Windows, I will do it on in a terminal on Linux. Hopefully it will be more or less the same. So in my Windows machine, which is this window, I've navigated to a folder that is shared with my virtual Windows machine. So this folder here is shared with my Linux machine. So anything I do in this folder will show up here as well. So first of all, I need to get the script. So wget, that is the get command, and this is the raw path to the script file. That's quick and easy. And if we update here, oops, we have the script file here as well. And if I open it, you don't have to do that, but I can open it anyway. Note. It's a bash script that will create a build folder. It will clone the Potree GitHub, and then it will install Node.js, and that will require sudo privileges. Then it will create and copy some files and folders, and then it will package everything in a zip file. And that is the file that will be the source of the deployment. On my GitHub, I have this zip file as a release. So if you don't want to build the package yourself, you can just download the Potree deploy.zip. That will get you everything you need for this. So you don't have to build it yourself. You can just get this one. You may want to build it yourself if you want to make sure you have the absolutely latest release of Potree. There are libraries in this that are starting to get a bit on the old side, which is a problem right now. But I'll get back to that a bit later. So, Linux, I have downloaded the file. It's there, the build file. Now I will run it, and the command for that was sh and build. I will probably be forced to give my sudo password in a moment. Just let it download or clone the repository. I already have Node installed on the Linux machine, so it will not have to install, but it will still need to build the Potree files. So just a few seconds more. And on the Windows subsystem for Linux, it should look and work more or less the same. And if it doesn't work on WSL, you could create a virtual Linux machine. Like that. We have created the Potree file, and it should be ready here. I'm not sure why. There we go. We have the build folder. In that you have the deployment files and the entire Potree build files. So here you have everything from the repository and the build files for it. But in the deploy folder, you have another build folder, some libraries, and a template folder, as well as a README file. And the README file, it will only give you some notion of what you are expected to do. But I will go through that here in the video. And actually, I will not use this build root, I will use the zip file. So the zip file that could also be downloaded from the GitHub. You can open it and extract the files to a location where you want to have as the root for your deployment. That could be the base folder for your web server, or where you start your Python web server later. So you can do it like this, extract. I usually just lost it there. Let's see, Potree deploy. Usually just right click and extract all. And then I can select the location. And I want it to be on my, let's say, my documents folders. A new folder, I called it PT deploy, like that. Extract, and when it has extracted, it will open in open that folder. In the meantime, we can talk about point clouds, because this deployed folders and zip file, that's only part of what is required. You need a point cloud, and the easiest way to create the point clouds needed is to use QGIS, and you need to use QGIS prior to the current 3.26 release. 3.26 is fantastic for 3D and point clouds, but it has a, maybe not a flaw, but it has one issue, and that is they have changed the default point cloud format from Entwine to cloud optimized point clouds. And Potree needs Entwine format. And the easiest way is to use a QGIS version prior to 3.26. So I will be using 3.22. The application that do the conversion is still the same. It's Entwine, and it can convert to Entwine and cloud optimized point cloud. But in the newer QGIS releases, the point clouds generated from that is too new for Potree. So there are some libraries that only work with point clouds or LAS files that are version 1.2 or older, and not 1.4. So this is the way. Use a QGIS version that is prior to 3.26. So let's see. And we need a point cloud as well. I think I had... Yeah, I've already created one. I will delete that. So I have this LAS file here. It's a small one. And to create an Entwine point cloud, all you have to do is drop your LAS files in QGIS, and it will convert it. And since this is a small file, it will be rather quick. And the conversion creates this EPT underscore and the name of the point cloud. So as soon as that one is done, I can use that point cloud. So let me open a new Explorer and go to Document, PT Deploy. Here are my deployment. So I don't need to do anything about the build folder or the libs. However, template, I can use this folder as it is because there's only an index file in it, an HTML file. But if I want to have more than one point cloud, I probably should just make a copy of it. So copy paste like that, and I will rename this my point cloud, my PC. So right there. And now it is done converting, and it worked. So I don't need QGIS anymore. So the generated EPT folder, open that. And here I have 3 things. It's an EPT JSON file, and EPT data folder, and an EPT hierarchy folder. All these I will copy or move to the new location, my created copy of the template folder. That's it. That's all you have to do. So now I have my deployed folders with my copy of the template folder under a new name, and in that one I've placed my Entwine point cloud. Now I can either make sure that all this is somewhere located somewhere on a web server, or I can use Python to start a web server in this location. Can I open a terminal here? Open PowerShell. So I need to give this command from this location. So there are multiple ways to use Python, and especially on Windows. If your command Python 3 does not give you a Python prompt like this, let me quit parenthesis, then the easiest way is just to go to the Windows Store and install Python. That is the absolute simplest way. Python comes in a lot of environments, and if you have QGIS, you have Python. But then you need to set up environment variables and paths and so on. So not to complicate anything, I installed Python through the Windows Store, so I can just issue a Python 3 command, because that is the next thing in the instructions. Navigate to the folder and give this command. So Python 3-m http.server 1234, and 1234 is port number. You can use other port numbers if you want. And enter. That started this HTTP server. So now I can just navigate to the localhost :1234 on a new browser tab. Localhost 1234. And this is the directory listing for the root. And here I have my PC, my point cloud. If you placed your point cloud in the template folder, you can go to that one, but it doesn't matter. You could also just give the address to the subfolder, so my PC. That will call on the HTML file in that folder, and that HTML file will use the point cloud that is included on that folder. So here you have a complete Potree 1.8 with your own point cloud, easily deployable. So let me see, is there anything else I want to mention? Well, yes, Potree will hopefully support cloud optimized point clouds in the future. However, it is requiring a few other developments. For instance, right now Potree is based on WebGL, and the version 2 of Potree will require WebGPU, and that is not completely developed, finished yet. But any month now, we'll see. The issue that I had with QGIS 3.26 is in a JavaScript file. Let me see if I can remember where that was. libs Placio JS las.js. That file can only work with point clouds up to version 1.2. So if you convert point clouds to Entwine in later releases of QGIS, it will not be compatible. At least that is my interpretation of the error messages I get. Anyway, if you have more information about the roadmap for Potree or point clouds or anything like this, please leave a note or a comment in the comment section of the video and try it out. Just download the release package, the zip file here. You don't need to get the source code and build it yourself. And see you next time.